Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the Lone Wolf Podcast. Give me just a second here. Going to get some links shared around, see if we can get some people watching. We'll get on with this thing. If you read on Twitter already, you know what this is going to be about. We're going to be talking about the Joe Rogan Spotify situation. Also going to be looking at what Neil Young's issue is with all that. Going back through a little bit of history involving Neil Young there as well. We're going to talk about this trucker convoy that's going on up in Canada right now. And lastly, I want to give some takes on this whole Jackson Hinkle, Sam Cedar debate. I watched that, and yeah, that certainly was interesting. So give me just a second. We're going to get some stuff sent out here, and we'll get this show on the road. All right, let's see if we got any comments trickling in here before I get started. Holly Horn. Hi, Charles. How you doing, Holly? You didn't watch. I'm guessing you're referring to the whole Sam Cedar, Jackson Hinkle debate there. Well, don't worry. There might be some Jackson Hinkle fans that trickle in. Go ahead and throw this out there. I'm not exactly a very big Jackson Hinkle fan, but I wouldn't say you missed much. Honestly, that whole debate, which I'm going to come back to, but it was the same old shit going round and round and round and round in circles, just to put it that way. So let's just go ahead and jump into the meat and potatoes here, okay? Joe Rogan, Spotify, and Neil Young, okay? So, you know, for those that have been following what was going on, and by the way, if you hear a little background noise, this is the Lone Wolf Podcast, but the Huskies want to be part of the show as well, these little Husky puppies. So, we still got 3 of them left. So, I've been doing some videos in here, and sometimes you'll hear them in the background. So in case you hear like some little barks or growls or whatever, because they'll get the horse playing with each other, that's what's going on in case anyone hears it. But back to the Rogan Spotify situation. So Rogan, as you know, has been bringing on people to his show. He brought on Dr. Robert Malone. Obviously, Dr. Robert Malone was one of the people who was instrumental in creating the mRNA vaccine technology. Not only was he instrumental in creating that, but he is very outspoken against the COVID vaccine. He has opinions that are different from the mainstream media narrative, and that doesn't go over well with mainstream media. Certainly doesn't go over well with big pharma. Okay, so without diving too far into that, needless to say, Rogan isn't exactly the most pro-vax for the COVID vaccine person out there. We've heard Rogan talk about the whole ivermectin thing. It's really pissing off big pharma, mainstream media. They've gone through the whole thing about he's taking horse dewormers and BS like that, right? So, they've been trying to cancel Rogan for some time. Well, Neil Young, the classic rocker Neil Young, okay, he came out and basically gave Spotify the ultimatum, and he said, look, either you're going to have Joe Rogan on your platform or you can have my music, but pick one because you can't have both, okay? Very ironic. First of all, okay, when is the last time that Neil Young has had a song out that's made it to the charts? Let's be honest. I'm not going to take anything away from Neil Young as a legendary guy in the music business for classic rock, but let's be honest. Neil Young is past his heyday, okay? If we're going to talk about who's bringing in revenue, who's making the money right now, Is it Neil Young? Or is it the guy who's probably got the biggest podcast going on right now? He's becoming a household name. And Spotify obviously thought his podcast was so good that they wanted to pay this guy millions of dollars to just be exclusive to their platform. Who do you think Spotify's probably got a bigger financial interest in? I would say the obvious answer to that is definitely going to be Joe Rogan. Okay. Joe Rogan is being talked about all over the place. Neil Young, not so much. Okay. But there's been multiple things that Neil Young has, stepped off in the past. Okay. And I want to touch on that for just a moment. Okay. So if you've been watching Jimmy Dore lately, Jimmy Dore's been talking about a little bit of this. Okay. Dore's been talking about the fact that, for one, you've got some of Neil Young's old bandmates who have come out and said that Neil Young is the most selfish person that they've ever known. Okay. You've also got the fact that, as Jimmy has brought up, Neil Young sold rights to his music to Blackstone, to freaking with Blackstone. Okay. This is the same group that's ravaging the Amazon, tearing down the rainforest or whatever, right? This is the same group that's trying to kick people out of their homes, all this eviction junk. Okay. They're a pretty sick group of people over there at Blackstone. And this is who he is doing business with. This is who he sold his music to. So this goes back to what, Crosby said. Okay. Literally, the guy's selfish. He's complaining about what Rogan's doing, like, oh, you either got to have him or you can have me, but you're going to do business with Blackstone. Well, it turns out some people in charge of Blackstone have ties to Pfizer. Who would have thought it? Okay. So, I think Jimmy's done a really good job at bringing up this point. So, turns out your music is now owned by the group that has ties to Big Pharma. And now you've got the biggest podcast, I would say, in the United States today, who is bringing on guests that don't just carry Big Pharma's narratives about the vaccine. And now you're going to say, well, I don't like that. Either you can have my music or you can have his stuff or whatever, but one's got to go. Is it coincidence? Is it coincidence? Furthermore than that, okay, he tells people shortly thereafter, basically boycott Spotify and start listening to Amazon Music instead. Amazon Music, the music streaming platform that is owned by Jeff Bezos, the guy that runs a company that's telling their delivery drivers to piss in bottles. I know truckers that do that. I don't know about normal delivery drivers that do that, but that's sick. We're talking about the same place that treats their workers pretty poorly. Pretty poorly is a drastic understatement there, by the way. They treat them like shit, if you want to just be flat out and blunt and honest. Okay? They treat their workers like shit. They definitely don't pay them what really they should be earning. They've done everything in their power to union bust so the workers can't, unite. This guy's making money out the wazoo. He's made it's fucking stomach turning the more you actually dig into Jeff Bezos. But this is who you support. So because you don't like what Rogan had to say about the COVID pandemic or the vaccine, you don't support people going to that platform that he's on to get their music, but you support them going to the music platform owned and controlled by that guy to get their music. That says a whole lot for you now, doesn't it? So, you know, but that's more recent history with Neil Young. Honestly, I've never really been that much of a Neil Young fan. I think Leonard Skinner had the perfect response to Neil Young all the way back in the 70s. Everybody knows the song, just like more people probably keep up with Joe Rogan today than they do with Neil Young. Back then, there were two songs that came out. And one, pretty much anybody that's ever listened to very much music knows to this day. The other, well, you might know it, but you're probably going to be guaranteed to know one over the other one. You're probably going to be guaranteed to have heard at least at some point in your life Sweet Home Alabama by Leonard Skinner. If you haven't, go listen to it. I mean, where have you been hiding? Okay. Sweet Home Alabama. It is a classic tune. Okay. And obviously, you can tell I like Leonard Skinner because I've got Ronnie Van Zant right over here on the wall. But there were literally a line, okay, in that song. There was a line where they took a dig at Neil Young. I'm trying to go off of memory here, but I think it's well, I heard Mr. Young sing about her. Well, I heard old Neil put her down. Well, I hope Neil Young will remember. A Southern man don't need him around anyhow. What was he talking about? So Neil Young had a song that came out prior to that called Alabama. I'm going to read you some of the lyrics here, okay? Oh, Alabama, the devil fools with the best laid plane. Swing low, Alabama, you got the spare change. You got to feel strange. And now the moment is all that it meant. Alabama, you got weight on your shoulders that's breaking your back. Your Cadillac has got a wheel in the ditch and a wheel on the track. Oh, Alabama, banjos playing through your broken glass windows down in Alabama. See the old folks tied in white ropes. Hear the banjo. Don't it take you down home? Alabama, you got the weight on your shoulders. So he just keeps going through this. Now, basically, this whole song is one giant shot at Alabama and really the South in general. And it's basically a shot about the South's troubled past in terms of slavery, in terms of Jim Crow, et cetera, et cetera. Now, in the 1970s, did these elements still exist? Yes. But you could chalk this up to Neil Young basically being the original woke libtard from the 1970s. And Leonard Skinner had to basically retort by saying, listen, you Canadian piece of trash, you weren't born in the fucking South. Quit talking shit about where the fuck we're from. Because while these bad elements exist, you're paintbrushing our whole fucking state and our whole fucking culture to be a bunch of backward hick hillbillies who are just racist pieces of trash. That's what the fuck you're doing. We grew up here, and that's not how we feel about things. And if you want any kind of insight into where Leonard Skinner got their motivation to do what they did, they got it from blues, the old rock and roll, which predominantly was done by black people. Icons in rock and roll like Chuck Berry. Okay? And if you haven't listened to Chuck Berry and you consider yourself to be a fan of rock, I suggest you do so. You can tell where the energy in rock and roll really got its start. People like Elvis, people like Leonard Skinner take what they got from rock from people like that. Okay? Some people would say they were ripping off the culture. I wouldn't go with that. I say it's paying homage to it. Listen to Leonard Skinner's song, The Ballad of Curtis Lowe. Okay? They had an appreciation for that. They didn't want to just rip it off. They had an appreciation for it. So that was a response that I thought was great. You know, it's how I feel about it. So, Neil Young has just made a reputation over the years. Some people might consider him a musical genius, but, honestly, he just made a reputation, in my opinion, over the years of, just sticking his foot square in his mouth. That's how I feel about it. Now, of course, as a result of this, there were other people who got on board this train with Neil Young as well. Joni Mitchell, um, somebody else from Springsteen's East Street Band, Lofgren. I forget the first name. But so now all these woke folks of yesteryear are trying to band together and come out to cancel Joe Rogan. Well, it ain't fucking happening. If I'm not mistaken, I think I just saw something earlier today where freaking Dwayne The Rock Johnson has come out in support of Joe Rogan. Well, ain't that a bitch? Somebody else that's way, way more prevalent to pop culture today than Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, or for that matter, the fucking boss Bruce Springsteen. I think The Rock is a, more popular figure in today's world than any of those three. And even though it wasn't Springsteen that came out, it was some fucker from his band or whatever, right? So yeah, Niels Lofgren. There we go. That's the one. So, and I'm pretty sure, as far as people who even liked what The Rock had to say, hell, Chris Pratt I know was one, and I can't remember who the hell the other one was. But yeah, these people are way more prevalent to today's culture than Neil Young with the pork chop sideburns he's rocking. Okay, so Neil Young just needs to go sit down. He needs to keep playing around with his billionaire buddies who don't give a shit about the working class and treat their workers like crap. Don't grandstand, basically. Now back to Joe Rogan. The other thing that cracks me the fuck up about all this mess is the fact that when this all first came out, there were people who definitely leaned more over to the right that were like, oh, yeah, support Joe Rogan, it's our man. They're trying to cancel him. Well, free speech. First of all, some of these fucking people talking about free speech, I find that ironic. They're bitching about cancel culture and free speech, and they're some of the biggest hypocrites when it comes to that. Even some of them and how they operate their own channels. But that being said, okay, they literally make this out like Rogan some hero. And because Rogan responded and basically said he would be open to allowing pro-vax people to come on his channel, he's committed fucking errors. Well, no, he's caved to the woke libtards. So let me get this straight. You got a problem with a guy who has trained in mixed martial arts, commentates for mixed martial arts, has hosted TV shows like Fear Factor, and is an active stand-up comedian. In other words, by no means is he a doctor. By no means is he a scientist. By no means is he a virologist. And guess what? He doesn't claim to be any of those things either. But you got a problem with him simply saying, hey, I just want to hear viewpoint. That's literally all he said. He's like, I want to hear what these people had to say. Obviously, he's probably got an opinion that leans in one direction or the other. But as he pointed out, he's already had on Sanjay Gupta. He's had on other people that are more pro-vax. He's had on people that are part of the Biden team to deal with COVID or whatever, right? He's brought on people with the pro-vax standpoint. Like, this is something new to you. Like him coming out and saying, hey, if I bring on someone like Robert Malone, maybe I try to bring on someone that works for Pfizer next. I don't know. Like, but that's, oh, he's caving. Well, he's already fucking been bringing these people on. Where in the hell have you been? Obviously, you must not really follow the Joe Rogan experience that well, or you'd know he's had these people on in the past. Joe Rogan is not a partisan fucking hack. Joe Rogan just likes to talk to people, and he'll talk to pretty much just about anybody. So what the hell is your gripe that he's saying he would bring on some pro-vax people? Now you're going in the opposite way. Now you only want him to bring on the point of view that you agree with. So what's all this freedom of speech? Why do you have a problem with him bringing people on even if they don't agree with you, and then letting people hear what's said and letting people decide for them fucking selves. I thought that's what indie media was supposed to be doing. We want to lay it all out there, and whichever argument seems to make the most fucking sense, let people walk away from it with some common sense. Yeah, I see a guy in the comments here, Rick French, in the chat, and he will admit when he's wrong. Absolutely. As Dora said, this is probably one of the most honest guys out there today. You know, I love watching Joe Rogan's show. Okay. Even if I don't agree with the people he's got on, I think, in all honesty, just the vibe I get from Joe Rogan, I feel like he's a pretty straight up, straightforward guy. And he could talk to just about anyone. And as long as you're not a complete, buffoon, I think it could be a pretty productive conversation. And by no means does that mean all these people like Fauci or Sanjay Gupta are buffoons. They're not buffoons, guys. They're actually smart. That's how they control the power that they control. You might think they're evil, but you ever heard of an evil genius? Well, you don't get to that place by just being stupid. So let's see what we got going on in some of these chats here real quick. Because, I mean, that's pretty much what my take is on it. It cracks me up how so many people got triggered because Rogan took one stance. And because Rogan just simply said he's willing to listen to the pro-vax crowd, then the people who were all cheerleading Rogan are like, oh, well, he's caved now. Like, fuck. So you're just as bad, honestly, in some ways, as the other fucking side that you were bitching about trying to cancel him. Because now you're like, well, no, he's a sellout. No, the fuck he's not. He's saying he wants to talk to people. That's not being a sellout. So, let's see what we got. Let's see. Scroll back up so I can hit some of these. Propaganda Live. How you doing today, man? Thanks for tuning in. By the way, I hope you didn't take that whole Canadian thing personally. Didn't mean any insults by it. Only to Neil Young, not to you. Let's see. Brian Aguilar. Thanks for tuning in today, Brian. Hope you're doing well up there. Republicans are the same way. They want to cancel anyone they don't like. Yes. Thank you. That part. A little bit fucking louder for the people in the back, okay? I'm not going to go diving into that whole drama bullshit mess again, but flat out, it's a solid fact. Republicans want to be the ones in control of the cancel culture. There's the difference. Some former affiliates of mine literally demonstrate that by calling themselves Republicans now and then putting as top chats. Like, yeah, you can comment in my comment section as long as you keep it nice and respectful. But they'll be the same people to turn around and bitch about their video getting taken down or their comments being censored or them being suspended for over a week. Like, how the fuck you gonna sit there and bitch about big tech and, oh, we need all this freedom of speech, but you're gonna censor what people say in response to you? That's not freedom of speech. It's not freedom of speech at all. And by no means, if you know, you know. But by no means does it stop with like that guy, okay? This is a big problem with these so-called free speech Republicans, okay? They want to sit there and talk like they're constitutional defenders, and they're full of shit. They really don't give a damn. They don't. They don't want to be the ones being censored. They want to be the ones to censor you. If you put them in charge, you'd never be able to say anything that is an off-color joke about religion. If it's anything insulting to the Lord Jesus Christ, you're damned to hell and you will be censored and it will be taken down. Look how many of these fucking Republicans have launched their own little social media platforms in response to all this. Fucking My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell, and he literally's like, we're going to advocate for freedom of speech here. It's going to be all inclusive. You can say what you want. And then this dude literally puts in his fucking rules. Somebody like me would be gone a long time ago. You know why? Because there's no cussing. No cussing. No foul language. You need your mouth washed out with a bar of soap. You can't talk like that here. That's freedom of speech. I must be missing something here. Take it a step further. You can't say anything about Jesus or God with the capital G Not those lowercase g's, because that's false gods. By the way, in case you wonder what I'm talking about, that's the kind of stuff they taught us when I had to go to Christian school. Real God, you put a capital G in front of it. Anything else, false idols. So if you're insulting that God with the capital G, can't have that here. That's freedom of speech. Sure. Well, as I said, they want to be the ones to do the censoring. Let's see. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Brian Aguilar. Joe Rogan should bring on Epstein survivors like Maria Farmer, but haven't seen that. Yeah. I completely agree with that. And shout out to, my buddy Reed Coverdale, the naturalist capitalist, because he's been doing really great work in that department, getting a lot of those Epstein survivors on. I think he's actually had on Maria Farmer, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I would highly support Rogan doing that. Let's see. I see you. I noticed something about Rogan, something he will play dumb for his guest, even when he knows exactly what they are talking about. So, I give you a little bit of a personal story on that, right? So, yeah, he, I think he does do some of that, but something like I've noticed is, and I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just like being respectful to his guest, right? But for years, I heard Joe Rogan just shit on professional wrestling. I mean, he's a UFC guy, right? This is real fighting. This is MMA, okay? Now, as someone who grew up taking, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes and did some wrestling team stuff, okay? Someone who grew up in that, I appreciate that element of it, but I also grew up a huge fan of professional wrestling, right? And my man, the best in my book, the guy right there, the dead man, the Undertaker, okay? He got the Undertaker to come on the Joe Rogan Experience, right? And it's like anytime he gets these professional wrestling guys on, he's extremely respectful. But in prior times in the past, he would have been like, it's a bunch of play fighting, like these holds don't work, these chair shots, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, you got to take that, and then you got to say, well, so is he being fake in front of these guys or what? But whatever. I take it as he's being respectful to his guest, and I'll be entirely honest with you. I think they're great interviews either way, no matter what he's being. I thought it was very good conversation, very interesting to listen to, so I chalk it up to that. So let's see. I see you again. I see that a lot, Charles. You get into a disagreement with someone that they take personally. Bam, bam, they ban you. Yeah. Well, and that's what I think the Republicans would really do if they got that sort of power. Let's see. I see you. Man, when I was a kid, The Undertaker scared the crap out of me. And then when I grew up and saw the real guy, I found out he's such a sweetheart. Hey, I grew up obviously in the 90s, but if I had to rank the ones that were my favorites growing up in wrestling, Taker number 1, Kane number 2, probably I would put Sting number 3. Okay. And then after that, Stone Cold and The Rock. That'd be top 5. Okay. After that, I'd probably have to rank Triple H in there at number 6. But unfortunately, and don't get me wrong, by no means am I saying I don't like Triple H, more than the rest of them. But Jimmy Superfly Snuka, freaking legend. Snuka was just a little bit before my time, but I have watched a lot of Snuka stuff, and man, you talk about innovative into the sport of wrestling. So yes, so Snuka was good stuff. But back in those days, you talk about two of the original high flyers that really paved the way for that sort of wrestling. You got to go with somebody like Snuka and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, I would say. So Macho Man Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah. Macho Man was pretty damn good, man. I mean, like, to me, I don't know. Something about, I guess, what I was into. I thought The Rock was just fucking hilarious. But something about like the darker element of stuff always for some reason attracted me as a kid. Think about that whatever you want. But like when you look at the trend, like Taker, Kane, Sting is my favorites. So something about that element. I mean, like I remember when I was a kid, I used to love the movie The Crow and all that, like it's just something about that has always kind of intrigued me. And then when I got into high school and stuff, I had the whole, punk rock, dark clothes all the time stuff going. So it's just something about, personally, like even in my wardrobe, I think I've probably gotten around now more to where I wear more colors than I used to. But a lot of the stuff, obviously, that I have is black. It's something about so something about my personality, I guess. I've just always kind of been more intrigued by that, I guess you could say. So that being said, yeah, I see you. I love The Crow too, and I was a scaredy cat. So let's move on to something else here. Let's talk about this trucker convoy that's going on up in Canada. Okay. So if you've been keeping up with this, um, there's this big convoy. They're making a protest against the mandates. They're traveling to the capital that they just arrived in Ottawa not long ago. And so basically the gist is they're banding together, they're standing up, they're gonna, say something about these mandates. It's time that it be over with, okay? And a lot of people have looked at this as a symbol of, well, this is what we need, something like this in the United States. There are literally, my buddy Reed just talked about this in a video, and I think he was pretty on the mark. Other people have talked about it and was like, they should get a big convoy to ride to DC. After what happened a little over a year ago, you think that's a smart idea? But let's be honest, like what are they going to do if they go to DC? Sit in their trucks and honk those air horns? Like what the hell's the goal going to be, right? It seems like more people just want the truckers to just flat out go on strike. Well, Reed Coverdale is a trucker, and I know a lot of truckers. Grew up around them. Okay, my dad was a trucker for many, many years. Me and him don't have the best of relationships, but when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time with him on the road. Um, and why we don't talk, that's a whole personal thing there. I'd rather not go into today, but I spent a lot of time with him when I was a kid. Okay. And I know what truckers go through. I know how critical they are to making the wheels, no pun intended, turn for our country. Okay. They're very critical. As Reed pointed out, and this has been something me and him have talked about, for the people that talk about federal minimum wage, Australia does it. Look at what Canada does. Look at how divided they are compared to the United States. How many, states or whatever Canada calls like their version of states, how many of them are there? I mean, we got 50 here, and if you're just talking about within the continental part, it's 48. 48. And there's a huge difference between the cost of living here and the cost of living in New York, California. I was just talking to fellow TFP network member Tom Coffey of Coffee and Nuance. Okay, he's had a lot of stuff going on lately. He hasn't made any content, but he does plan to return. I will leak that. I will not leak any more of his other surprises. You'll have to stay tuned for that. But he is planning on coming back. I think we will see a return of Coffee and Nuance at some point soon. Okay. But the thing is, even where he lives, Portland. He's saying he's paying like $400 a month or whatever on his fucking property taxes. His property taxes. I'm paying a little over $200 more than that a month, and that's my whole fucking house payment plus the shit to go into my escrow account to cover my property taxes and my insurance. $600 a month, and I'm paying for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a decent portion of land in South Carolina. Huge difference in the fucking cost of living. He's talking about his house like $300,000. Bought a house, $65,000. And he ain't the only one. He ain't the only one. Okay? I've got a video that's going to be coming out pretty soon. I brought a guy on the show. We talked about a few things. I got to get everything put together, and I'm going to put it out there. But you might know him from Twitter. Yeti Jesus. He was just on. I talked to him. We talked about the cost of living. It's a whole lot higher up yonder in Canada, too, than it is here in South Carolina. Okay? Huge difference. So that's why when I hear that whole federal minimum wage, I'm like, what would do something here? Wouldn't be enough in those places. And if you take it up high enough to do something in those places, it would be almost a fucking culture shock of sorts. It would be too much at one damn time for some place like us for what we are already adjusted to. So, I mean, it's just crazy. So why do you think this national trucker thing would be any different? Like if they all went on strike? Well, certain states don't have all this crazy mandate crap that others do. Ironically, those same states that have extremely high cost of living tend to be the same one with the craziest mandates. California, New York, out there in Portland, Oregon, Seattle, and Washington. All these places really controlled by a lot of Democrats have crazy mandates and extremely high costs of living. If only there would be something that like a common denominator there. And by no stance am I saying that Republicans are great. They're not. I'm in a Republican state, but we still have plenty of our own problems here too. Lindsey Graham, for the record. Okay. But the point of it is, you put everyone on strike, you're going to affect everyone. Everyone. Even the states that are trying to buck this whole mandate BS. Even the ones that are like, look, this is too much. This is just too damn much. Now, I heard someone say recently that if they went on strike, it would just affect these big chain stores. The rich and the powerful are going to pay. They'll feel the pain. Sure. So will the little guy. What the fuck makes you think the little guy ain't going to feel no pain? Now, if we're talking about the local farmer who grows his own shit, no, he probably won't. What about the small mom and pop shop? He's got to get supplies in from somewhere. Where the hell's he getting it from? If you don't think they're going to prioritize big chains getting their shelves stocked over him because of how much they can buy at one given time and how important they are, they literally prioritize the bigger company over the smaller one. This is a fucking business. I don't know that the little guy is going to be around in 10 years. I bet your ass Walmart will be. If Walmart's out of business in 10 years, something serious fucking happened here. I don't know what, because I don't have a crystal ball to see in the future. But if Walmart is out of business in 10 years, whoo, buddy, something big happened. I mean, huge. Or in the words of our 45th president, it was huge, huge. No one ever saw it coming. Walmart ain't going out of business anytime soon at the same risk the little guy that has a little hole in the wall store would. But they both got to get supplies. And if Walmart's having trouble getting their shelves stocked, little guy is going on the back burner. And that's just all there is to that. So if you think they're going to be the only ones suffering, oh, no, my man. No. You know, learn something, young grasshopper. Everybody's going to suffer at the result of that. And all the states that aren't even on board with all this mandate stuff that you don't like. Why would you want to make them all suffer? And as Reed pointed out, who do you think is going to be wearing the big black eye when everyone starts to suffer because of these truckers on strike? You really think that the Biden administration is going to look bad? Well, to some, possibly. But there will be a lot of other people who tune into the nightly news that totes water for the establishment and is sponsored by Pfizer. And then they're going to tell everyone listening at home that these truckers who took these jobs to move goods around our country to keep those wheels, those figurative wheels turning, refuse to do their jobs because they are too selfish to just get the shot that's going to save us all. They're just too damn selfish. And if you don't think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to believe that, there are people now who already want to put people in literal fucking prison for not wanting to take the vaccine. What do you think they'd want to do to these truckers who are refusing to keep our country moving because they don't want to take it? If they just want to put people in jail, some of them, for just not wanting to get the shot, then I would go as far as to say that everyone else, if you're literally refusing to move goods, they'd be like, oh, they should be charged with something. This is like treason. They're trying to shut the whole damn country down. They're trying to hold us hostage. How dare they? They're going to like the bad guy at the end of it. So here's an idea. Why don't people just start doing stuff, if you really give that much of a shit, at the community level and making your voices be heard in the states that have the mandates, and start letting your local officials know you're fed the hell up with it? Just an idea. Why are you in these states, if you want those mandates to end, why would you be powerless to organize a protest? A bunch of workers in that state go on strike. Why do you want the whole country, including states that don't even peddle this nonsense still? Why would you want them to suffer the same way? I wouldn't. I just don't think I could get on board with that, you know? I wouldn't want other states to suffer because my state's being stupid. So if that's how you feel about it, hey, you know, try that out for a change. See what that does. Can't hurt anything, right? So that's kind of how I feel about it. If you really want this whole trucker strike thing here in the US, you know, and that's what you feel, try organizing more stuff at the local level. But this whole national thing, to me, I could just easily see that backfiring big time. Okay. But let me know what you guys think. I don't see any of the chats rolling in here at the moment. I'm not sure if no one's has said anything or if it's froze or what the deal is here. So if you guys got anything you want to say in response to that, I'll take a few minutes and answer some questions, respond to some chats here before we move on to Hinkle versus Cedar. Okay. So let's see. Anybody got anything they want to send through? Let's see. Mr. J, the Canadian truckers are going to win. Yeah, I would say probably so. You know, that I would say they're probably going to win, but remember, Canada's not divided up into 48 states in the continental side. 50 states, if you really want to be technical, for the United States, right? They're not divided up that far. So that goes back to what I was saying earlier. I don't know that a whole national thing here is going to play out the same way. Canada, for the most part, is divided to some extent, but its culture and its civilizations really, I don't think, are that diverse from anything I've ever heard. It's not like the kind of difference you find if you're above the Mason-Dixon line or below it. Okay. Mr. J, we need to stand up to authoritarianism. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I say, if you've got a problem with these things going on in your state, start doing stuff at the community level. I say this stuff when it comes to the elections too, and this has been my biggest criticism for third parties. Everybody wants to focus on the federal side of it, more particularly the president. Nothing for the Congress, nothing for the Senate, much less governors, state houses, mayoral offices. Like, you're not really putting any effort into any of that. You gotta fix this problem at the base. Take the power structure away. Same thing. If your community has that problem, start trying to work inside that community to fix it. But doing something that's going to affect everyone, I don't know how well that's going to play out for you. Rick French, think there's only 8 territories. Yeah, I was just including the states. I'm not even counting like Guam and Puerto Rico and all the other territories, Mr. J, my state includes Chicago, so I'm screwed. Oh, hell. Hey, no disrespect for Chicago. I know a lot of good people who've come from Chicago. But I do have to say, I don't think it's a place I'd want to live based on what I know. But there's probably people that live there don't want to live where I'm from either. So, to each their own. To each their own. Different strokes for different folks, But yeah, Chicago's definitely a unique animal for sure. They blame all their gun problems, even though they have all those strict ass gun laws up there, on the fact, well, you can just travel a short little distance away, and it's hog heaven for guns over there. You can just buy them however the hell you want. Maybe you can, but either way, it doesn't really seem like your strict gun laws are working. That's all I can say. When you see people who are trained and know how to properly handle a firearm, and someone walks in, I know there are people who aren't going to agree with me on this, but it's how I feel about it. My common sense tells me, from what I've seen, it works. Somebody walks in with that gun and there's other people in the room that know how to work a gun well, less people are probably going to end up dying. Because if a mass shooter walked into the room wanting to shoot everybody and somebody else was in there trained and could use a firearm well, before they could take out half of a crowded theater, that motherfucker might be falling over dead. That's how I feel about it. I know there's going to be people who disagree with me on that, but that's how I feel. Mr. J, Chicago sucks. I own a gun. Yeah, if I lived there, I definitely would be finding a way to get me a gun too. I ain't even going to bullshit. Without a doubt, if I lived in Chicago, I'd make sure I had a gun up there too. Which I have guns here, but if I lived there, ain't no doubt in my mind I'd be keeping the gun nearby. Illinois is pretty shitty, but you can still legally buy a gun. It's just hoops you got to jump through. Oh, well, that's all these gun laws are. They don't stop anyone really from, well, they do stop, I guess, some people from buying a gun, but they don't stop everyone from buying a gun unless you're just going to ban guns, and that would be a constitutional issue at that point. Some people want to do that, but that ain't going to be so easily done around here. You know what I mean? So, let's see. I'm not in Chicago. I live in the cornfield part of. Well, hey, I might keep a gun handy out there too. I don't know what kind of wildlife might come around. You get out there in those cornfields, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like, do y'all get coyotes up that far, in your area much or anything like that? I know. We see a lot of them around here, so maybe a good old rifle or something. A coyote coming around to attack my dog or something. Just keep that on handy for that. So let's see. That's like all of Illinois except for Chicago. I've never been to Illinois, so I can't say for sure. Um, Rick French, yeah, yeah. So okay, so y'all have them around here too. Where I live, I hear them a lot. You'll hear them out in the woods at night. One of the jobs I used to work at years ago. Well, you know what? I'll come on out and just say it. I don't work there anymore, so I don't give a shit. I used to work for a place not too far from here, Milliken and Company. They're textile. They do a lot of like carpet tile and shit like that. And this was at their corporate office. Roger Milliken, when he built that place, Roger Milliken was like a tree nut. Okay, we're talking about a place that when he bought it, it was like a fucking peach orchard. Okay, but he cut all the peach trees down, and he's got all these other trees, and it's like a giant forest. It's just woods around there. And one of their big things they like to brag about is they got a negative carbon footprint, right? So wildlife all over the fucking place, okay? And you would see we had, first of all, I know there are some Canadians in the chat right now. Y'all need to do something about those fucking geese. Damn things are mean as shit, man. Motherfuckers will just come running with their fucking damn little necks wobbling back and forth and their wings all out trying to snap at your ass. And all they do is shit all over our sidewalks when they come down here for fucking wintertime, man. Y'all need to do something about them things, man. Y'all need to raise your geese better up there. I'm telling you now. They ain't got no fucking respect when they get down here. All they want to do is come down here and act like an asshole. I don't like it. We used to get those damn things all the time. They'd be in the middle of mating season, and they would see their reflection in the glass, and they just run up, just peck the fucking shit out of the glass, bothering all the people on the inside. You'd walk out the door, they'd get all territorial, start hissing, and that little freaking little waddle run crap they would do and chase your ass. And you got to watch, like I say, make sure you don't step in a landmine somewhere from the goose poop all over the place, right? So that was the least of the problems. We had coyotes. I mean, just come right up to the door. Right up to the door. Coyotes. We had coyotes spot out there. Obviously, we saw deer, wild turkeys, but the ones for concern, wolves, coyotes, packs of coyotes were found out there at one point, right? Black bear, a freaking bear. It's not uncommon around here, but there's a reason they couldn't keep anybody in the security department over there. They wanted to pay these security guards at the time like $11 an hour. And at night, they're out there having to hit little checkpoints up near the tree line, and it's not well lit. And we're getting reports like, oh, yeah, at that tree line where y'all go, there've been black bear over there recently. Come again. You want me to walk up right to the edge of the forest, and before I turn around, I could have Yogi all up my ass? Oh, no, fuck that. Bobcats, man. We had problems with those damn things around there. I mean, yeah, that was for $11 an hour. There were a lot of people that said, ain't no fucking way I'm dealing with that. And can you blame them? So Read a few of these and then let's move on to the Hinkle Sam Cedar thing here. Brian Aguilar. I love California, but it seems to be getting worse. Yeah, well, based on what I'm understanding, I would say that makes sense. Doesn't seem like they're doing a lot to really improve the situation. They didn't do a good job at recalling Newsom. So, Ronwell. To be honest, I live in Illinois, but I'm not in Chicago. However, I'm in Chicago suburbs. What? So I'm curious. Like, is there much of a difference, really? Is like, I and I'm not saying that to be like a smart ass or anything. I'm curious because you said it's not Chicago suburbs. Is it better in that area, or is it just a bougier name for a place that's basically the fucking same or something? Just curious. Uh, Rick French, it's very cool listening to coyotes at night as long as they're not too close. Yeah, if they're way off, but if they're close, yeah, I don't like that very much at all. Neither do my huskies. That's why when I have to let them out there at night, if I can hear them close, I got the old rifle nearby just in case one comes trying to jump my fence and get in the backyard or something. That coyote will soon be a dead coyote because I don't want to have a dead dog. Brian Aguilar, my state is getting ridiculous and expensive. I hate it. Yeah. Hey, going back to Rogan, I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons he left. Like a lot of the Californians, they moved out west years ago in those covered wagons. Now everything's settled in real good, and the modern times have come along, and a lot of them have said, fuck that, we're going to voyage back east. Some are stopping in the middle along the way. Some are coming all the way back over where their ancestral travels began. Maybe not all the way back across the ocean, but some of them are coming all the way back on over to the East Coast. Some of them are moving down to Florida this time. Florida. Let's see. Rick French. That's all. That's all geese. They're just me. I know, man. I'm just giving y'all shit because we can't do a damn thing to them when they come down here because they're on the endangered species list. And if you get caught killing one of them, you're in hot fucking water. But they just come down here and shit all over everything and act like little jerks. Mr. J, I have a pretty high fence, and the coyotes tend to stay close to the woods and the river. Well, I don't have a tall fence. Mine's about 3-4 feet. So they can get in the backyard if they really wanted to. So I got to keep a close eye on my huskies too, because they could jump it if they really wanted. So whenever I let them out there, I got to kind of go outside and play with them, keep a good eye on them, make sure that they're okay out there and they're not trying to get into mischief, because a husky will get into mischief. It's like a troublesome kid. All right, so let's get to the last thing here. And as I'm starting to wrap it up, just roll the chats in. I'll respond to them one last time before we start to wrap everything up here. But Jackson Hinkle versus Sam Cedar. I'm going to go ahead and get the elephant in the room out. As far as dog in this fight's concerned, I can't really say I got one. If I had to go with one side or the other, I would probably lean more towards the Jackson Hinkle side. I would say I probably find him to be a more genuine guy than Sam Cedar. Well, that's because I don't find a damn thing about Sam Cedar to be genuine, other than the fact that he is a fucking hack. I find that to be genuine, but that's about it. Okay. So however they got this thing organized, if you don't know, Jackson Hinkle runs a show called Dive. Sam Cedar, the Majority Report. He's got people like Emma Vigeland over there, used to be with TYT. Okay. Sam Cedar, for the most part, has made a reputation out of just Jimmy Dore, Jimmy Dore, Jimmy Dore, Jimmy Dore, Jimmy Dore, Jimmy Dore, Jimmy Dore. Now, I'll reference Jimmy Dore, But I don't put his name in every title of my video for fucking clicks. If I did, I might have a bigger channel by now, but I'm trying to grow the channel through the shit that I'm actually talking about, quality of content, not just so much clickbait bullshit and using a bigger channel's name all the time to get my views. You know, some people do, and I'm not even going to say that they're doing something nefarious. You know, I mean, the algorithm's fucking us over, so you got to do what you got to do to try to get the views in at some point, right? But ultimately, this guy is about just like his, you know, I would say sister network, TYT. They're stagnated. I think a lot of people aren't buying what they're selling anymore. And they might still be subscribed, but they're just not watching their shit. It's not happening, right? So to get views, and Hinkle brought these points up, and I think he's onto something here. He's going with someone like Jimmy Dore because people, there are a group that want to hear him shit all over Jimmy Dore. So they're going to tune in. But then you're going to have the Jimmy Dore crowd that are going to tune in on top of that and say they want to hear just what he's saying about Jimmy Dore and get all pissed and go to the comment section and rip him a new asshole. They can't really ratio him with the dislikes because, well, YouTube said they don't want to have that feature anymore. So dislikes are gone. The only way you can really ratio someone on YouTube now is to just blow up that comment section. But if it seems like someone's getting, you know, copy pasted in the comment section, well, they'll start deleting those too. So how do you really keep that up? So anyway, they set up this debate. And from what I could gather when I watched it, seems like what Hinkle wanted to debate Cedar on was why he doesn't hold the squad more accountable. And Cedar, the majority of the time, supposedly, this is just how he looks all the time. Anyhow, just sitting there like, to everything Hinkle's saying, like he's either very confused or very stoned. I don't know which. It seems like it's one of the two. Okay. But that being said, Cedar's argument back was that he does hold the squad accountable. He does hold the AOCs and he will disagree with them on this and that. But it seemed like he could not wrap his head around why Jackson Hinkle is calling the squad sellouts. So here we go with the old Kyle Kalinske argument. They're not getting anything financially in return for this sellout. Like they're not getting bought off per se. Well, Hinkle responded with some of them have taken Soros money. Now here's where immediately Sam becomes full of shit. Full of shit. Full of it. Okay. Well, how much money have you taken from George Soros? He tells him, oh, it's only like so many thousand. We're not talking in the millions, right? I don't even think it was like tens of thousands. But it was in the thousands. And basically, Sam's like, oh, so they, yeah, just a little over $1,000, whatever. Yeah, that bought them off. Yep, buddy, that did it. You're full of shit, man. Full of shit. We all know your ilk would turn to any fucking Republican if a Republican took money from a neo-Nazi group. If they took about $1,000 from, I don't know, the KKK and accepted it and did not send it back, you people would be over it. See, well, the amount doesn't matter. They're not calling them out and they're taking money. You'd be all over that shit like a fucking hog on slop, man, and you damn well know it. You damn well know it. But when it's AOC and her group, well, it's got to be over a certain, it's like a height requirement for rides at the fair, right? If it's not over a certain threshold, it don't fucking matter. Well, hey, Sam, I thought they ran off of smaller donations anyway, right? Like, this is the squad. They're not taking all this big PAC money in the first place, right? Since they're not taking big PAC money, big corporate interest money, they're not raking in millions and millions. It's all supposed to be smaller donations anyhow. So if Soros is donating smaller amounts, and just kind of blending in with the rest of the pack, is it that those few thousands or whatever don't really make that big of a dent in anything when you consider ultimately it's all mostly grassroots shit anyway, I thought, though, right? So a few thousand probably might actually do something for what they're trying to do. He don't need to give them $1 million. Nobody else is. They're not running that kind of campaign. But fuck, Sam. Even if, okay, they are not being bought off financially, there's more than one way to be a sellout. Namely, they're putting the fact they don't want to be challenged by the Democrat establishment up front. They don't want to buck the system too hard because they like where they're at. And they can sit there and sheep herd people to the party and promise them a whole lot of shit that they're not going to deliver on, won't even put up a good fight on, okay? And then at the end of the day, blame it on this or that or the other, but they're not even trying to fight. But ultimately, what they care more about, just like we talked about Neil Young earlier, caring about Neil Young, they care about themselves. They want to stay in Congress or move on to become a senator. They care about career growth and keeping what they've got. Even though it was AOC who said she would be okay with being a one-term congresswoman fighting for the shit she ran on. But she didn't do that. You know? And so Sam's response is, well, I don't put all that stock into everything that politicians say. So, okay, so you acknowledge politicians will lie for votes. So, Sam, if you acknowledge that, why are you praising them at all? Like, if you acknowledge they're going to do that to you, why even fucking praise them? Why don't you just say, look, this is what they say. I don't expect them to even really do that much. They're a politician. No. You're trying to, when they tell you they're going to do something, oh, yeah, rah, rah, hoo, hoo. Let's go. Go for the squad. But when they don't, well, what can you do? The only point I think he kind of got Hinkle on to some extent was when he would say, like, yeah, they got these things passed in the House. It failed in the Senate. Okay, good point there. But that's where you got to use your leverage to get the whole Democrat establishment to whip the people in the Senate in line, not just in the House. That's going to go beyond Pelosi. That point, it goes to Biden. Whenever Hinkle brought up the point of basically leverage your vote on anything you can to force the vote, and it fucking cracked me up every time he said, what do you mean by force the vote? What do you mean by that, Jackson? What does force the vote even mean? Leveraging your vote. And they wound up getting that a couple of times. But any damn time Hinkle tried to say something that would start backing him into a corner, Sam just got that confused ass look on his face. What do you mean, Jackson? Jackson. We got to have some decorum here. We got to have, what do you mean? Like, that man said probably, what do you mean, as many times as he said Jimmy Dore when he went on Brianna Joy Gray's show. Arguably, he said, what do you mean, that many times, if you go back and listen to that shit show. Okay, so what do you mean, Jackson? That should have literally trended. Like, that what round up going around was the I don't care part that came towards the end. But what really should have been in there was, what do you mean? So literally, Sam, what you're telling us is you're a fucking idiot and don't know what any of this shit means. Wow, that's great. So we should all listen to you. Okay. So he still tried to defend the whole thing about with forced to vote that you know, the Republican could have wound up being Speaker of the House, He tried to defend that argument, but the biggest thing is he then tried to sit there. First of all, they muted his mic, which now to be fair, Jackson Hinkle would cut Hinkle off, but Hinkle would kind of go on and on and on and on and on, making a really long point, which you're on that guy's show. Like, just to be devil's advocate, right? I do kind of feel like, in a way, Hinkle was trying to railroad it into becoming a shit show. I do. Because instead of making a point, him responding, and like a debate, this back and forth, Hinkle would just go on. I mean, he would soapbox. And I'm not saying some of the shit he was saying was wrong, but he was soapboxing on that guy's show. Now, to be fair, I bring you on my show for a debate. You're not going to dominate the conversation on my own show. I mean, equal time here, equal time, right? You're not going to dominate the whole conversation on my fucking channel. We're just not having that. It's not how I feel about it. I do think that could piss someone off if you're the host of that show and you bring someone on and they just want to hog the spotlight to say everything that they want to say. Okay. But that being said, so they mute Hinkle. Don't take him off mute. Claim. So now some people claim Hinkle did this intentionally to try to frame him. Either way, they remove him. He goes back on. They debate a little bit longer. His camera went out at some point. I mean, this whole thing, if I just got to sum it up, really, it was a whole fucking shit show and a half. Really. Now, ultimately, I do think Hinkle did a far better job of articulating his arguments than Sam, but still, at the same time, I do think there were sometimes where Sam would toss him some of these stupid questions. I do think Hinkle missed the mark a couple of times, like literally when he's sitting there saying, why should they leverage their vote on this or that or whatever? I can't go back verbatim, but I just feel like some of the responses he gave weren't as strong as they could be. The other thing, though, is when Sam tries to claim, well, if they just buck everything, it's only going to hurt them in the long run. Well, don't Joe Manchin do it all the time? That's one fucking guy. Yeah, he's in the Senate, but what the fuck's the difference? He's got the power because the vote is that split. He and Kyrsten Sinema can control the whole fucking thing. The whole damn thing. So you're telling me when the Congress is pretty damn close to, that the progressive caucus couldn't do the same damn thing if they wanted to, even just a few of them band together, they could have their fucking way or just not vote any damn thing that needs to be passed through until they get what they want. And if they can't whip Manchin into shape, then encourage them, then you need to start putting someone up against them to primary that son of a bitch. Not unheard of, right? So, but they don't want to leverage anything that way. At any damn time it came time for them to fight, they've always given up. But ultimately, for everyone who thought this was, look, hey, I appreciate seeing Sam Cedar get taken to task as much as anyone, but ultimately, a lot of people have been kind of going on and on about this whole debate. I do think Jackson did a good job at making certain points in there. And I do think ultimately he won, but having a better argument than Sam Cedar isn't really that hard to do. And at one damn point, they were debating him 3-on-1. You got Sam chiming in, one of the producers chiming in. You got freaking Emma Vigeland chiming in. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think that debate was just one big clusterfuck, honestly. It really was. I really don't think anybody would have heard anything that knew what was going on and learned something that great from it, honestly. I really just found it to be one giant clusterfuck. So let's see what we got going on over here. So let's see. Mr. J, I don't know who Jackson Hinkle is. Well, he's lefty YouTube. I first became aware of him when he came on Frank Analysis a little while back. And there were some issues there because he's this big MPP stan, basically, right? And they started talking about some shit pertaining to MPP and was it really as great as people are making it out to be? And to me, just got really disrespectful. He started just, you could see visually he wasn't engaged. He's just sitting there all over his phone. Like he's just tuning everybody out. And then he's just giving these real short, one-worded response. Like to me, I just took it as being extremely disrespectful. And then even after that, he tried to like go on Twitter or post something in the community section of YouTube. Tried to like put Franco on blast or whatever. So when I saw that, I'm like, I didn't really have much of a high opinion of the guy. Now, I do know he leans more towards being a communist as far as standpoints go. He literally described himself as like a Lenin Marxist or something when he went on with Sam Cedar. So obviously me and him would have a lot of disagreements in terms of that. But that's another issue. So let's see. Pro-domestic terrorism. I don't know where that's coming from. Hollyhorn, Pelosi endorsed AOC. Yeah, if that don't tell you what you need to know right there, I don't know what else does. So, Mr. J, Jimmy Dore, last I saw was pro-Antifa. Antifa is 100% a domestic terrorist organization. So to talk about the whole Antifa thing for a moment, right? Like that's apparently there are a lot of that's like really divisive, right? Like there are people who think they're domestic terrorists, or there are other people that Antifa doesn't even really exist. Like I've heard that argument before. Obviously, they fucking exist somehow. Obviously, I mean these people exist, right? But then you get into a whole nother conversation, and hey, if you believe that they were involved in January 6th, why couldn't they be involved in these Black Lives Matter protests that went awry? Why couldn't they be involved in some Antifa protests? Referring to the deep state, FBI, CIA, stuff like that. You know, we just heard the grilling on Capitol Hill not long ago. Were there any FBI people involved in the January 6th? If they were, they could be involved in this too. You don't know. There is a clear history of them trying to do things like that, to stage things, to cause the scenario that they want so they can use it to portray in the media to get this result. It's not unheard of. Okay, so there is a possibility. You know, all I will say is based on what I've seen come out of this Antifa stuff, I can't say I'm really a fan, but I will reserve judgment because there is the possibility there could be other actors behind some of the stuff that we see that gives us that impression. The same way there could have been behind the January 6th scenario. Okay. So that's kind of where I'll leave it at that. So let's see. Mr. J, Cedar deserves it. How are you going to try and force a debate on someone who prepared to debate like Ethan Klein? Oh, poor old Ethan Klein. I'm embarrassed we have the same middle name. I don't know. That might be his first name. It's my middle name. Says, let's see. Mr. J, Manchin and Cinema are supposed to represent their constituents. They are not supposed to obey the Democratic cult in all things. Well, here's the problem. You know, they're supposed to obey their constituents. They're not supposed to obey Democrat cult. I don't know that the Build Back Better, regardless of what you think of it, at the end of the day, I think what it came down to try to appease Cinema and Manchin was a utter fucking joke. But their constituents liked it. Most working class families in today's time, with daycare costs being what they are, like the idea of universal pre-K. We didn't get it. Considering how many people are going bankrupt from medical debt, lowering prescription drug costs sounds like a fucking terrific idea to me. What we finally got at the end of the day was lowering 10. And they're not even going to vote for this shit. And Manchin's daughter took over one of the companies that's making the EpiPen and is jacking up the fucking prices on it. And they've literally got her dead to rights on emails saying, how can we justify jacking up this price? So she's price gouging for profit. You know, they could do something with that if they really want to. So they're not just catering to their quote unquote cult. Their state, the polls that were taken, their state were more on board with getting a lot of that stuff done. But regardless of the polls, Cinema, for example, specifically ran on wanting to lower prescription drug costs when she got into office, took money from Big Pharma, and now she's fucking against it. So it's not even catering to the cult or their base. They're fucking catering to the big fucking mega wealthy donors that bought them off. That's not even catering to a cult or your base at point. They're just catering to whoever had the most fucking money to buy them off. Utter corruption at its fucking finest. Or catering to whatever serves their family's interest, like in Manchin's case, since his daughter is literally tied to Big Pharma. Okay? Rick French, debate without mods are usually shit shows. Hey, amen. You get a round of applause for that one. That's literally a thought I had when it came to this. I'm like, there needs to be a moderator. Somebody has to be present to keep this shit in check. You get to talk this long, you get to talk this long. These are the points. Stay on top. Like this shit. So for those that don't remember, there was this little jackass referred to his channel as AN Squared. I'm not even going to give him the courtesy of just saying his name. But he tried to come taking some shots at Nico House and Franco and at me and this and that. We're all just a bunch of Jimmy Dore knockoffs. And he's talking all this shit. He's going to change the world, telling you about Bitcoin and crypto. Okay. Well, that guy said he would debate me too. I said, let's set up a moderator. Oh, no. You come on my show and debate me is what he said to me. What? Like, to me, now to be fair, I've brought people on my show, but I'm going to be fair. It's just who I am. But I literally, to try to make it even, the odds against me even, I brought on 3 women to debate me back when the whole Jimmy Dore Anna Kasparian thing happened, right? Because we had difference of opinion on it all. And some people still leave. They're like, well, you didn't do that right. You gave them too much time to talk. Fuck, it's 3-on-1. Well, you shouldn't have done it that way. Well, okay, whatever. You got your opinion. I think I expressed what I had to say. If you didn't want to listen to the whole video, well, that's on you and your ADD attention span. That ain't my problem. Whatever. Okay. But ultimately, yeah, you need a moderator because that shit will just go off the rails real fucking quick. Just leave it at that. So, and yeah, I didn't go on and debate him, okay, on his own show because 1, that dude seems unstable as fuck, and 2, no, because I wouldn't have put it past him to literally 1, not ever put it up, 2, probably mute my ass if he ever wanted to and not allow me to talk. So, and he probably would have done what he wound up doing with it and just turn into a bunch of personal insults and spewing his garbage anyway. So, see, Mr. J, the left keeps getting worse and worse. You are about as left as I go these days on YouTube. I used to watch TYT and support Bernie Sanders, though. Well, I wouldn't consider TYT left, but if you, I would recommend, though, honestly, even if you have your disagreements with some of the stuff they say, some good, honest people on the lefty side of YouTube that I would definitely recommend that you give some sort of a listen to would be people like Steve Slow News Day, Nico House, Convo Couch, and Frank Analysis. I've been on Frank Analysis many times. I've never been invited on any of the other people's shows yet. Maybe one of these days, but ultimately, I think they all, even if I disagree with them, I think they have good quality content, and I think that ultimately they have good points and try to, keep things fair. Even if you disagree with it, I think you can at least respect that they're coming from an honest point of view, I believe. So he goes on to say, they burn people's property down, they exist, and they are terrorists. Well, I don't know that the whole left is. Again, that's that's like saying that the people who literally stormed into the Capitol on January 6th are the entire right. There were a lot of people who wanted to keep it peaceful. There are two sides of that coin, and I'm not entirely convinced that some of these elements might not be funded by the deep state to literally give some people, maybe like yourself, that impression. If that's genuinely them doing that, then yeah, absolutely condemn that shit. But like the people that are burning these towns down, you gotta sit back and you think, because there are people inside the town, like when you get the aftermath of like George Floyd, and there are people in the town who are pissed. But they go out to the street and start peacefully protesting. You start finding those people that came in from out of town, start burning the town down. What they found out about them, they don't even live there. They're coming in from out of town, burning down someone else's town. Now, there's been this stuff floated about Soros having some ties to funding these groups. You've got, obviously, the conspiracy that could the deep state be involved? Or maybe they're just some fucking jackass from out of town. It's like, well, it ain't my fucking town. I'll go in there and act a fool if I want. Maybe. I don't know what it is, but definitely you find a lot of these people are outside actors. And that at least raises some suspicion. Who are they? Why are they doing this? So you got to at least keep it that fair. I will give it to that. I'm not condoning a damn thing they do. I made multiple videos criticizing that sort of behavior and saying how counterproductive, in my opinion, I think it is. But who are they really? And why are they doing it? Is it just because they're left? Or is there something else going on there? You've at least got to keep it fair, you've at least got to ask that question in response. The same way we would expect if we think what took place on some of these other days might have had some shenanigans involved into what took place there. If you want the other side to respect your view on that, you've got to be willing to extend that same respect back and say, maybe these scenarios with these actors where I condemn, when they say these people didn't really stand with us, they came from out of town, you've at least got to extend them the same courtesy to say, well, you might be onto something there. If they'll do it to us, why wouldn't they do it to you? It actually really makes perfect sense at the end of the day. You want to infiltrate both sides and cause problems to make each other. That's how you keep everyone divided. That's how you keep the country split apart. There's working class people on both sides of this equation, and the good way to keep them split apart and not want to work together or really communicate is to do things on each side with protests or riots or whatever that makes the other side go, what the hell are these people doing? How could you support something like that? It's an easy way to keep the division going. So you've at least got to keep an open mind as to who are they and why are they doing what they're doing? And is it really just because they're on the left, or is it because there might be something else afoot? So that's all. I just want to leave it at that. So let's see. Apocalyptic Optimist. Antifa is just college student LARPing as revolutionaries. Let's see. Thomas, Oklahoma. Hinkle is to the left of me economically, but I agree with much of his stances. He just spends too much time giving his thoughts and criticisms about other political commentators. Clickbait for money, I guess. Yeah, that's what I literally brought up earlier. Like, he's criticizing Cedar for talking about Door, but literally most of his videos are Sam Cedar this, Jimmy Dore this. Like he's the opposite of Sam Cedar. Most of his stuff is attacking the Jimmy Dore haters to defend Jimmy Dore. What? And to be fair, channels like the Vanguard have all but admitted they're doing this stuff to draw in the views. It's soap opera clickbait shit, and it's going to get the clicks. And the idea, and it's actually a pretty smart strategy. I'm going to lure you in with the clickbait. And when I get you here, maybe you'll hear the other things that I'm talking about, and you'll like what you hear, and you'll subscribe, and maybe you'll stay. It's smart when you think about it, but ultimately, is that really what you want to be known for? Or, to me, I guess I'm just old-fashioned. If I want to do that all the time, I probably could, and I'd have a much bigger channel by now, ultimately. I'm convinced, because some of my best watched videos are when I do talk about it. I don't know what this one's going to say in the view section, but I'm going to be willing to wager it's probably going to be up there. And if I do what I'm planning on doing and splitting these into sections, when I get to the part about Rogan and Neil Young and Spotify, I suspect that one will probably get good views. I suspect that the part talking about Hinkle and Cedar will probably get pretty decent views compared to my normal average. So if I want to just stick with that, I probably could have had a much bigger following by now, but I'd rather try to get more people in with just what I'm saying, even though I might be fighting a fool's battle here at this point. So, let's see. Anthony Reyes, Charles, what's up, man? Just trying to get a good live stream in here. Got some, got some plans going on. Some videos going to be coming up. I got to get part 2, the bit I edited out in the middle with that Reed Coverdale interview where we were not talking about a certain fickle fraud. We're talking about January 6th, the jab, and some other things. Had an issue getting that one uploaded to YouTube. And so because of that, I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to get it up on, I'm going to try to get it on YouTube, because what we're talking about, it might not stay. If not, I'll try to get it over on Rockfin. Hopefully they don't, yeet my ass off YouTube for talking about it, but we'll see. Just kind of see what happens with that. So, and then I definitely got to get the interview put up with Yeti Jesus. I think if you've been watching this, tune in to check that one out. It's a great conversation. I've definitely got to get that guy back on the show. It was a, excellent time chatting with him. So, he's definitely seemed like my kind of people. So, Hollyhorn agree. Charles, painting with the broad brush. Yeah, it's not good. So, let's see. Yeah, Mr. J, all in these because these are the last few. I guess he's referring to the Antifa again. They're extremists. It worked on me, turned me completely against the left. It says, all right, Charles, in chat, I got to go shovel the blizzard. So it looks like he's gone from this point. But yeah, I mean, hey, perfect example right there. He said it worked on him. He turned against the left. Well, that's what they're aiming for. That's what they're aiming for. Now, these guys could just be themselves going out there starting all that shit. I'm not going to say one way or the other. I'm not, part of the FBI. I have not had the tools at my disposal to dig into them and try to find all this stuff out, nor have I actually just tried to do it in general. I see what I see, and what my reaction wants to be is these people are counterproductive. And it should be common sense that what they're doing ain't going to help shit. And I spend my time going, should be common sense. For a long time, I was probably right there with you. Like, these are the kind of people that make it where nobody wants to support the left. Now I hear what's coming out in terms of this January 6th stuff. Could there have been outside actors that influenced what took place on that day as well? Did it happen? I don't know. But what's starting to slowly work its way out is, well, that's a possibility. And you consider, how they've set up stuff with, organized crime in the past to infiltrate, do this and that. The FBI infiltrates these things all the time. They want to. It's how they learn the information about what's really going on, for one thing. It's not unheard of. Our government setting something up to give it the appearance of something else isn't unheard of either. Operation Northwoods, anyone? It's very possible. And so if they will do it to one side, why wouldn't they do it to the other side? Literally, if their end game is to keep division, to keep us from uniting and coming together and trying to make a real stand to take our country back, if that's their goal, why wouldn't they infiltrate both sides and try to cause things to keep each side pitted against the other? They would obviously want to do that. Now, are they doing it? I'm not going to say one way or the other. I don't know. You be your own judge what you conclude from it. Let common sense lead you where you think it does. That's all I'll say on that. Let's see. Yeah, so I'll end it up. I said I was going to end on the last one, but I'll end on this one here. Brian Aguilar, now just thinking about it, I think the Patriot Front are feds. Could be. You never know, man. I don't want to start the whole, red scare shit like, oh, anybody around the corner. Some people could just be thinking that way. I mean, it's a possibility, but it's also not unheard of that they would put people out there to get stuff started, There's the rumor that Oswald was really CIA, and this whole time he was preaching about the Soviet Union, he was an undercover infiltrator, basically. I mean, these are things we've heard about all this time. So is it unheard of they would try something like that? No. Does it mean they are? Well, you can't say that either. But you've at least got to reserve judgment until you find out for sure. And how do you ever find out for sure? Well, that's a whole nother issue there. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. It's been a great show. Gonna play the outro clip here, get everything wrapped up. If you're watching this after the fact, I will be editing this hour and 30-something minute live stream over into separate clips. They will be going up on YouTube, kind of breaking down each segment. Might remove where I'm doing all the chat stuff from it, just kind of keep it to the points that we brought up here. But, if you like this video, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up. That'll help get this video out there for people to see. And if you liked any particular segment, make sure you come back when I get those posted, give them that thumbs up. That way we can get that stuff spread around. Shorter videos, people will want to watch more than the live stream. So if you like it, make sure you're giving them that thumbs up. Drop those comments in the comment box down below. If you've stumbled across the channel, you've never seen me before, you stumbled across, you like what we've been talking about here, give us a subscribe. Help us out. We're trying to get over that 1,000 subscriber mile mark. I've already hit over 2,000 followers on Rockfin in less than 6 months. But in 2 years on YouTube, I'm fighting that battle with the algorithm to get over 1,000. So, if you found the channel, just help us out. Make sure you're ringing that bell so you get the notifications. Hope you all stay well. Hope you're all blessed. We'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.